Be free, no truth,
and keep it playful.
This is another amazing episode of Truth Serum. Truth Serum.
It's fun. Sure
And
is.
it's good for you.
NBC News has recently featured a story about a woman whose cells were taken without her consent for the supposed good of science.
Lax was a young mother of 5 who died of cervical cancer in 1951 at Johns Hopkins, where doctors found her unique and aggressive cancer cells were the first to grow in a lab. Henrietta never gave doctors permission to use her cells, and her family was never told. Like nothing they'd seen before.
Now, I just want to point out real quick that you can go to NBC News, watch the whole video for yourselves, because I'm only taking select highlights here that I feel are most pertinent. They got this whole heartwarming story, the family's all involved, the woman's writing a book, there's a new foundation. Back to my video. So we know they got her cells without asking, but how'd they use them?
Those cells, shortened to HeLa instead of Henrietta's full name, were used to test the polio vaccine, develop in vitro fertilization, and drugs used to fight cancer.
Say what? Whoa. Wait. How are you going to pass up space mission?
She's out of this world.
Animal hybrid?
Animal hybrid.
What?
They skipped right over those things, and so if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't even notice.
That's right. And by the way, they never give you any of the details on any of these uses.
Used to fight cancer.
Cancer
just to
drugs and
name a few.
HPV. Are you kidding me? The HPV vaccine? Yeah, that's the one that's killed a bunch of women. The silver lining in the story is this white woman pictured here was working with Henrietta's daughter on a book and a foundation because...
The family got nothing. But for the next generation, there is a new mission now.
You can't help but be proud of what it's done. So when you think about that, it's like, okay, something bad happened, but something so much good has come from it.
John Hopkins says it never profited from HeLa cells, but millions of dollars have changed hands elsewhere as the cells were cultured and sold around the world.
Money to be made?
The family was never compensated. But hey, the impact is bigger than money. And that's true, but not in the way they want you to think. Look at how they romanticize the situation by saying her legacy lived on in her cells. Her cells have traveled to space, they've been embedded in a nuclear bomb, and the family had no idea. Yes, buried in this article, without any elaboration, they mentioned that her cells were embedded in a nuclear bomb.
It's better mankind, right?
Of course, these altruistic, morally minded scientists were only doing it
For the good of science.
I started asking people, do you know, have you ever heard of anybody like ever? No one had. So
Something Winfrey is now determined to change.
the significance of what her cells have meant, I think the world needs to know that.
Does that include knowing about the nuclear bomb and animal hybrid?
Oh yeah, by the way, Oprah's making a movie to make sure Henrietta's legacy lives on. And let's be real, this legacy is about covering over a travesty.
You can't help but be proud of what it's done. So when you think about that, it's like, okay, something bad happened, but something so much good has come from it.
A foundation has been set up to support the Lax family and others who have contributed to science without their consent. Well, gee golly, thanks. And let's be honest, it's that issue of consent that's the real issue here. They want the public to go along with the idea that there is a smarter class of people, of experts and scientists who should have the ability to experiment on you or anybody they want for some supposed greater good that's bigger than money. The reality is it is without consent precisely because
No one would do it if they were given a choice. I don't want my cells in a nuclear bomb. Yeah.
Preach it, brother.
now while NBC is trying to condition us to accept that using Henrietta's cells for these experiments is a good thing, they seem to not even mention that during the same time period there was other experiments going on in the black community that deserve a mention, I'd say. Tuskegee, anyone?
Years from 1932 until 1972. The men with syphilis were not told they were infected and were not treated, even after penicillin was discovered to be an effective cure for the disease in the 1940s. Over the course of the experiment, 128 participants died of syphilis or syphilis-related complications. In 1972, when the paper exposed the details, the experiment was still ongoing.
For the greater good, right? How is it that Harriet Lax's family are not, going crazy about this? Well, David Lax's positions
And
changed.
it's like, okay, something bad happened, but something so much good has come from it.
David Lax now sits on a board at the National Institutes of Health, helping to decide just what Henrietta's gene sequence is used for.
You don't speak out when you're part of the full.
It's important to condition the mind of the public to accept a scientific tyranny that says because of the greater good, it should be okay for them to violate your human rights. This isn't a legacy to be celebrated, but a cause for concern, and yet instead, they've turned it into...
And I think we ought to think of the Lacks family as some of the greatest philanthropists in medicine of all time.
She was a woman. She was black with limited education, limited finances, and look what she has done for the world.
Heartwarming, isn't it? Let's get real. This woman didn't change medicine. They're trying to use her story
To change you to accept.
science on individuals who have not given consent. You have
No reason to believe them.
no reason to trust them, no reason to go along with the agenda. Stand up for your rights.
And the truth.
Truth Serum.
We're excavating the truth behind the propaganda of mass media.
Get your box.
Be free, no,
No truth.
And keep it playful.